Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1180.
Dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest, Paul Rees, calling in from the United Kingdom. Paul, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am indeed. This sofa that I'm on is way more comfortable than my race car that I'm usually in, without the crotch straps. So yeah. I'm very much all right. Buckled up indeed.
There we go. Paul Rees is a British racing driver who is currently driving a McLaren in the European GT Championships. Paul is a multiple karting champion, Formula Palmer Audi Rookie Champion, and race winner. He was the FIA Formula 2 Rookie Cup winner and podium finisher and was third overall in the Porsche Carrera Cup GB Championship, race winner. And last year, Paul was invited to join the prestigious British Racing Drivers Club as a full member. When he's not racing, Paul is a driving coach, a development driver for numerous clients, including McLaren Automotive, Porsche, and Mercedes AMG. He's also a film stunt driver and has appeared worldwide on television and in print media. So, Paul, I've told our listeners just a tiny bit about you. Would you take a brief moment before I jump into the questions and share a little bit more about your racing career, your driving career, and a very obvious passion for going very fast in cars?
Well, yeah, I mean, it originated kind of at a friend's birthday party when I was very small, 13 years old, and just did very well in karts and in go-karts. And then it just took off from there. And my passion for motorsport, actually, everyone assumes stems from my father, because he was actually a Formula 2 and briefly a Formula 1 driver before starting a team called March, which were a very, very successful team back in the day, which then morphed into Arrow's Formula 1 team. So everyone kind of assumes it came through those channels, but actually my dad did everything to keep me away from motorsport. He gave me a tennis racket, a golf club, got me swimming, got me into rugby, anything but motorsport. But obviously this is the route I chose, and I put a lot of work into it. And thankfully, I'm really pleased with the path I've chosen and how things are going currently.
Well, absolutely. And that's very cool, the history of your father with March and then evolving into Arrows. I mean, serious racing iconic history there with March, and know the brand and name very, very well, especially since I've been involved with historic racing and vintage racing. So that is very cool. Well, as we continue on your journey, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra, some kind of saying that has meaning for you. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, Paul, take the wheel.
Well, actually, it's a James Dean saying. And James Dean was obviously an actor, but very into his cars. And I love the quote. So it's dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today. That's a quote by James Dean. And I just like that, because it just shows that you can really think big, be very, very outgoing, but just live every moment, as it's your last. So I'm always one to do crazy things and spur of the moment, but I like to get things done in the now and not put things off really. So but I dream big as well.
Oh, that's very cool. What's incredible about James Dean? I mean, a lot of people who are into cars think of him as racing old Porsches, 356s, of course, the iconic Spider that he lost his life in, but the fact that he really wasn't around that long, but the impression he made was absolutely indelible. I mean, everybody knows about James Dean, and even people that weren't around when his movie, the few movies he did, and I think he only really did one or two, I think, before he lost his life. But he seemed to live life a lot like, well, let's say Paul Newman, who raced cars, and Steve McQueen, who raced cars. I mean, these actors that really were sportsmen at heart, but they just used acting as a way to make the money so they could go racing, it seemed like to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and now you've got racing drivers who are making money in the racing world who then want to go acting. So,
yeah,
I know a few of them. And it's funny because, I'm obviously sometimes referred to as a stunt driver. In my mind, it's not really stunt driving, because I see stunt driving as people crashing and rolling over and catching fire and all that kind of thing. And but it's, yeah, I guess it's kind of a stunt / precision driving. And I think once film stars fall into doing stunts and driving stunts on their own, then they morph into the sort of, they get the bug, and that's what happens. I know Ryan Reynolds is doing a lot of his driving stunts at the moment with a colleague of mine, and apparently he's really starting to catch the catching the racing bug. So yeah, you see a lot of film stars morph into race drivers. I'm surprised Tom Cruise has never done more racing, actually.
Well, yeah, because I understand he does a lot of his stunts, and of course Patrick Dempsey. I'm a big Porsche fan, so I think he is as well. And he's done a lot of driving and racing and really, really loves that as well, continues to this day. So very, very cool. Well, let's go back in time a little bit, because it's interesting that your dad wanted to keep you away from racing, being so big in the racing industry. Is there a story that instigated your personal passion for car? That moment when you said, you know what, Dad, no matter what, I'm a car guy.
Yeah, I think it was when I first started racing, and I just found that I was better than everybody else, and I found it easy, and I just got the feeling which I'd never got before. It takes you to another place. You sort of detach yourself mentally, but you never feel more alive, and it's sort of, you get into this zone, and that's when I realized that actually this is what I'm good at, this is what I need to do. But it was a very hard journey when we were small, because I came from a family which is comfortable. It's we haven't wanted for much, but again, we never had the millions of pounds or even hundreds or tens of thousands it took to become a racing driver. So and I saw a quote from Ayrton Senna once that said motorsport is 60% business and 40% actually racing. And that's something which has stuck with me ever since I was very, very small. You've got to be a businessman as well to be a racing driver. But yeah, that's kind of when I realized that's what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. I think you've taken a really great path too, because not only do you race, but you're active in other areas of motorsports like the driving and the coaching. So you diversified yourself, which I think is extremely wise, because I've had hundreds of race car drivers on the show here at Cars Yeah. And the biggest challenge by far seems to be money, money, money. It's just so expensive to go racing. And unless you've got a very wealthy family to throw big bucks at you, you've got to do other things and be other things, and that seems to me what you've figured out how to do. Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of stems back to when I came out of Formula 2 a few years back, because the whole economic crisis had just happened. My sponsor had to pull out, and my racing career was going down the drain. So I actually went to Mercedes Benz World at a very famous place called Brooklands in London. And I got a job there as one of their sort of instructors, and they have a great stunt display team called Silver Arrows Stunt Display, which is all in Mercedes AMGs, doing sliding and synchronized drifting and all that kind of thing. And I learned a huge amount there, and I really matured as not only a person, as a race coach, but also my driving ability and car control really sort of went through the roof, because they have skid pans and ice simulation and all that kind of thing. And now, so always, if anyone asks me how I'm able to drift or slide cars the way I do, and or even drive or race in the wet, I actually owe a lot of it to Mercedes-Benz World in Brooklands. I worked there for a number of years, but crucially, the 3 years I had out of motorsport before getting an opportunity to come back in, I owe a lot to it, and it set me on a path of obviously the coaching stuff, the stunt driving, and almost improving me as an overall driver. So it kind of lucky, but at the time I didn't really think about diversifying, as you put it, but it just kind of shaped out that way, and now I'm very grateful for it. Absolutely. Sounds like an awesome experience. Well, let's take a look at some of the roads you've raced down, driven down, gone down, and talk about a big challenge or a big failure that you faced. These are things that race car drivers face almost on a weekly basis, it seems like, but they're great learning lessons, and they're great lessons for those listeners out there that might be facing something similar. So walk us through a specific event, if you would. Tell us how that challenged you in a great way, but tell us more importantly what you learned from it so you could move forward and grow from that experience. I think
when I got a phone call from Malcolm Wilson, who is very, very well known. He's the owner of M Sports, which is obviously they now run the very successful rallying team. But when Bentley said they were coming back into motorsport in 2014, Malcolm Wilson, I was at the gym, and Malcolm Wilson called me out of the blue, and he invited me to go and test. He said to me I was the wild card, as he wanted to recreate sort of the Bentley boys. So we went to Portimao, and I had a fantastic test. I hadn't been in a race car for about 3 years. I'd just been at Mercedes-Benz World, as we were talking, and had a fantastic test there. And I think there were about 19 drivers altogether, and I kind of made the final two. Although I didn't get the factory drive, which was a real shame not to get it, I was very inspired by that test. And Malcolm Wilson then called me about 3 days later and said, "Paul, we wanted to give you the drive along with a great friend of mine, Duncan Tappy. We wanted to give it to you, but you're just not quite experienced enough in GT cars. We're really sorry. We didn't expect you to be as quick as you were." So that's when I was really inspired. I kind of thought, you know what, I almost got a Bentley factory drive, which everyone wants a factory drive. That's kind of your main aim when you set out to be a racing driver. You know, you want to be paid by a manufacturer, to race for a manufacturer who you believe in, and then go and win a bunch of stuff. That's when I really it gave me that extra push to get out there and make it happen. And Malcolm then helped me get a seat within Porsche Carrera Cup GB, and won races that year, and obviously ultimately finished third in the championship. And then that was kind of my springboard into now, you know, high level GT racing. So yeah, I owe a lot to that moment, really. That was kind of my spring.
How did Malcolm know about you to call you?
He actually knew about me through a couple of engineers who I'd worked with in the past. And I worked with one of the engineers in Formula 2 who I got on very well with, and kept in touch with him in a couple of years that I had out. And I think he was great to then say, you know, you should really give Paul Rees a shot. You know, because I'm not one of these kids. I'm not like Lewis Hamilton, who, when you look at their CV, they've won everything. You know, I've actually always, we've kind of struggled through with very low budgets. We're always mediocre or subpar teams who are always on budgets as well. We've tended to do pretty good jobs with what we've had at the time. And then with this engineer who put my name forward, and then another friend of mine called Peter Digby, who owns a big gearbox company called X-Track, you know, I think two people said my name, and that gave Malcolm the inkling to give me a call. Really caught me off guard when he called me in the gym, but was a fantastic experience. To do.
Sounds like it. Well, the golden nugget I heard there was stay in touch with people. Keep in touch with people you've worked with before in some little way, some big way, whatever it is, because you never know what might cross their path that could lead to something crossing your path. So that's my takeaway there. Let's shift gears and talk about a big career aha moment, a time when you said, yeah, this is the new path I need to go down. Was there one of those that really stands out for you?
Yeah, I think again, it was that Bentley moment. It was when I was having that test in Portimao. I had this opportunity by Bentley, and then I suddenly realized, because coming out of Formula 2 a couple of years before, the GT, I was completely driven to be a Formula 1 driver. All I wanted to be was a Formula 1 driver. And now, actually, in fact, I look back and I think, what was I thinking? Why did I not go into GTs earlier and go down that route? Because in Formula 1, you've got very, very few people, and everyone wants to be a Formula 1 driver. You know, all the kids karting. You've only got 20 seats now. I think it might grow to 22 in the future. You've only got 20 seats. But in GTs and sports car racing, you can A, have a longer career, and B, it's definitely more realistic. So that was kind of my aha moment in terms of why did I not do this sooner? Formula 2 was an extremely good championship for me, but you know, the budgets and the struggles to be there in the first place was very tough. And now looking at Formula 2, I mean, the budget for a top drive now with these young kids is about £2.5 million per season. And it's just mind-blowing now how money-orientated it all is. But yeah, that was definitely when I had that aha moment.
Well, it makes sense to me. Having interviewed so many race car drivers, a couple names come to mind that have had great success there. Boris Said, who's been racing. Gosh, he's up in his 50s now and still gets called to do races. And Patrick Long, of course, races for Porsche.
Yeah,
I mean, again, a GT racer, a factory racer, long series of histories. And those guys, the factory cars, as you know, they've got money. The manufacturers have money to spend on this stuff. So a little more reliability and you can focus more on your driving. That's very, very cool. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special car, the first car that arrived in your life, or maybe it's the first race car you got in that you went, wow, I've really arrived. I'm here. And maybe share a memory you have about that vehicle.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be a car I've owned. You know what? I've never owned some. I've actually, which we'll get onto later. I've got one of my dream cars at the moment, which is a classic. But as far as owning cool cars, I've never really owned any amazing cars. I've always kind of I see cars as everyday to day cars because I spend so much time in so many amazing cars and machinery. I guess I don't have that urge like a lot of people do to have to drive an amazing car on the road all the time. And actually at the moment have a 4x4, a Mercedes 4x4, which is a fantastic car, and it's practical and it's comfortable. I had a Golf R32.
Nice.
When I was 18. It was a Mark V R32. I remember I got a job at a place called Halfords, which is like an auto center over here in the UK, and I worked my socks off purely so then I could afford to pay for a Golf R32, and then struggled to put fuel in it for my entire life. And it was but I absolutely loved that thing. When you're that age, your car is everything. So that was a great car to have. But now, obviously, I've got my baby, which is a 1968 280 SL Pagoda, which is just honestly one of the nicest cars I've ever driven. You have a nice day, you put the roof down, and you cruise through the countryside, and it's unbelievable. 1968 car. It's got power steering, ABS, an engine which just revs and revs, and it's just freaking awesome. So
nice.
Because we especially at McLaren, we have some unbelievable road cars.
Oh, no kidding.
You drive you drive a 720, which I think is one of the best road cars in the world, if not the best sort of pound for pound performance car, and you kind of think it doesn't get any better. So it's not necessarily speed and handling, robust handling I look for on the road, funny enough. I look for a vehicle which makes you feel good, is nice and smooth, and it's just elegant and classy, really. So well,
I
love that car.
Those old Mercedes Pagodas are beautiful. I have a good friend here in the Pacific Northwest who bought one a couple of years ago, and it's just beautiful. It's an all original car. It's just wonderful. His name's Bill. He's got some very cool cars in his garage, and they are a delight to drive. I mean, you just kind of slow yourself down and go back in time. But that R32, I had a good friend that I lost this past year, Bruce Levin, who was an incredible guy, car collector, but he ran racing teams. He actually raced 962s, 935s back in the day.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome cars. And he bought one of those R32s. This is a guy that could have any car he wants, and he's got garages full of cars. Had, as I should say, but he got that car and he goes, man, this was one of the coolest cars I've ever had. He just loved it. Yeah. And if you looked at his cars, I mean, he has some serious cars in his garage. So, I've heard great things about those. I've only been able to drive one once, but I was very, very impressed, and I love German cars. So that was a piece of it too. Well, is there a car you've let go that you have a little seller's remorse over?
Oh, probably that actually. That R32. I wish I just kept it because it's 3-liter V6. Howl. It really did howl. 4-wheel drive. It's not actually the best handling car in the world, but it's just. I always think, and even now, a Golf, a GTI or performance Golf, you can turn up at anywhere, and it's still it's just a cool car. It's one of those cars which, if you have a dream garage, and you sort of say to somebody, you've got 5 cars, 6 cars which you can have, you'll usually have somebody say an RS3 or an A45 or a Golf GTI or usually be on there. So didn't like selling that. But I also had very briefly a 1986 Porsche 911 Targa, which I let go 2 years ago. That was partly actually to buy the Pagoda. And I don't regret buying the Pagoda at all. I think it's one of the best things I did, especially the investment possibility of a Pagoda is unbelievable. The class, I've been very lucky. I wish I could have kept that and the Pagoda. They would have looked great together. But now obviously the Porsches are rocketing as well. So, I feel like maybe I might need to jump in feet first and get one of those before they're unobtainable.
Yeah, they're going that way. I have an 87 Turbo, Porsche Turbo that I bought about 9 years ago. Yeah, really cool car. My followers know it very well. I call it my orange crush because I got it from the original owner, and it was this paint to sample in a metallic orange color that was not a factory color. It was a special color this guy had mixed up and painted at the factory. And it's just, I'll send you a picture of it. It's just kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, but I love those 80s cars. And of course, in the 80s, when I was just getting married, I couldn't afford a new turbo. Really wanted one. So finally, the timing was right. And of course, they've gone through the roof too. I bought it at the right time for sure. So Fun cars. Well, let's talk a little bit about what has you excited and fired up with this new year. You're driving a McLaren in the European GT Championships. Awesome company to be working for and driving for. So what are you looking forward to as the coming year as far as racing goes?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm looking forward to winning the championship next year because I genuinely think that we have a very, very realistic shot. We've dominated a lot of this year, but we've had a lot of bad luck. Some things just haven't gone our way. We also had a new car, so we had a couple of teething problems. A new team who were working with the car, who were still getting their head around the car. So I really think that everything this year has taught us and the factory and the team a lot. So I'm looking forward to just sinking my teeth in next year and just getting the job done. And since in 2014, obviously, when I was third in Carrera Cup GB, I was very much enjoying a lot of podiums and race wins and picking up that trophy at the end of the year. And coming third in the championship is great, but actually, even to this day, I'm regret not quite getting the win. So I want to win a major championship. So that's my main focus for next year.
There you go. Well, best of luck to you and the team for doing just that. Fantastic. Here's a very introspective question for you, Paul. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you were a car, what would you be and why?
If I woke up, I was thinking about this earlier, and I could either go down the comedy route or, and actually I sort of thought, it sounds really cheesy, but I feel a little bit like a McLaren in the way that I'm still evolving. I haven't been around all that long. I've got goals I want to achieve, and I'm pretty sure I'll be winning soon. In a big way. And McLaren is a kind of company who I idolize and have idolized since I was very, very small. And if you look on paper, McLaren are just kicking butt in regards to performance cars. They really are. And but they're still new. Their CV, especially in sports car racing and everything, they've got great heritage, but especially in Formula 1, the CV, hasn't been exactly what they've wanted over the last few years. But they're kind of the underdog, So I feel like I'm evolving along with McLaren and hopefully making some history. So
there you go.
Sounds cheesy, but I'd like to think I'd be a McLaren.
Sounds pretty good to me, Paul. I love it. Well, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Do you know the best way to protect your vehicle, both the exterior and the interior, is with a car cover? I've been using Covercraft car covers since 1975. That's right, 1975. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. Covercraft has been manufacturing premium quality exterior and interior covers for over 50 years with a stellar reputation for durability and design. They're the world's largest manufacturer of custom patterned vehicle covers that are crafted to fit over 80,000 patterns and growing. They are the only cover I'll put on my vehicles. You can choose from a wide variety of fabrics, styles, colors, and more. From full cover designs for factory to custom-made vehicles, plus convertible top covers, trucks, truck cab coolers, motorcycles, scooters, ATVs, trailers, campers, personal watercraft, and a wide variety of custom features. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark sent you. That's covercraft.com. What's every automotive enthusiast's dream? To design and build that perfect garage. My friends at Metron Garage are a group of creative talents who've combined their passion for cars with their careers in architecture. Their service includes unique garage design and state-of-the-art fabrication. They will create the coolest custom garage for you and your vehicles. Metron Garage's system features fully engineered commercial-grade material and structural framing that's stronger than traditional construction. Their designs are pre-engineered to meet your building codes for fast, bolt-together construction. With over 25 years of experience, you'll see a 3D rendering to visualize your custom garage, and the final structure will fulfill all your storage needs. Contact Metron Garage today and begin realizing your dream garage. Go to metrongarage.com. That's metrongarage.com. Garage is built for discerning enthusiasts. Where it's not just a garage, it's where your dream garage comes true. Okay, Paul, we are back and we're entering the last lap. This is a place you've been many times. The white flag's out. Time to put our foot into it. And I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of that McLaren throttle. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
The best automotive advice would probably be a bit of a life advice. Treat others how you would want to be treated. And I think if I look back at myself when I was racing in Formula 2 and in my earlier career, I'd get very caught up in being a Formula 1 driver, and I used to be a little bit edgy and upset a few people. And I think I've matured a lot recently, and then realized that actually, what goes around comes around, and motorsport's a very small world. You don't want to upset anyone. So I genuinely, my advice to people is treat everyone how you want to be treated. It doesn't matter who they are. They could be the cleaner in a factory to the CEO. I think everyone's pretty equally as important, and the marshals as well. All these guys that give up their time to look after safety at the racetrack as well. They get a hard time because they only see us at our worst. And, But I always make an effort with those guys as well.
Great advice.
Good man.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has helped contribute to your successes over the years on the racetrack?
Probably determination is one. There have been times where I've been very, very much knocked down, or my results haven't been what they should have been. Especially, I had a very character-building year last year in Porsche Super Cup. We had a couple of issues throughout the year which were just grinding on and really sort of knocking me down, and I was sort of flying to races almost not wanting to be there, but then I'd sort of dig deep, and the determination, especially towards the latter half of the season and over the winter. So I'd say determination, and also a lot of people in motorsport have this. I have something called OCD. I mean, it's not a problem, but I just have this obsession with detail, and actually a lot of drivers I know have it as well. And I think that's something you need, because you need to be perfect in every braking zone, every apex, every exit, every lap. And I think only with that detail you get that extra bit.
Yep, I've been accused of that myself, so I figured there's nothing wrong with that at all.
It's amazing.
Focused on details.
The car industry as a whole is unbelievable. The amount of people who are the same with regards to that. It's just that OC. Or I actually like to call it CDO, because I like the letters to be in alphabetical order. So
I'm going to steal that one if you'll let me, Paul. I like that. That's pretty funny.
You can have that one for free.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, determination, and one thing I've heard from every race car driver on the show is that determination, the great quote by Sir Winston Churchill, never ever give up. You're right. Yeah. You just don't give up until you cross the finish line, because you never know what's going to happen in front of you. Now, how about a resource? There are awesome resources for us these days. Is there one in particular you're really fond of?
I waste a lot of time on Instagram, and I love Instagram. You can pretty much you can see everyone's stories. So if I've got a potential that I'm going to be a new teammate with a new driver, or I've been written to by someone who's really into cars and they put their Instagram page on there, it's great, because I always go on Instagram and you can check people's pages out and look at their sort of life and pictures. So I've always kind of, yeah, and I enjoy Instagram a lot. So I'd say that's a resource which is not sort of probably your obvious choice, but I actually I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it gives you a lot back as well.
What's your Instagram page so our listeners can follow you?
So it's my name, Paul Rees Racing. So it's all one word, Paul Rees Racing. Tend to do a bunch of crazy stuff on there, lots of cars sliding around, and had a recent trip to Los Angeles, which I very much enjoyed. And a great friend of mine is probably one of the best car photographers on the planet, called Richard Pardon, and we spend a lot of time together. We work together, so lucky enough to have some pretty cool photos on there. So yeah, check it out, and give me
absolutely. I'll put a link to that Instagram on Paul's show notes page, and you have to introduce me to your photographer friend. I've had hundreds of automotive photographers on the show. I would love to have him be a guest on the show as well. That would be super.
I'm sure he'd love it. He is super into cars.
I know his name well, so let's connect us. Now, if I could wave my magic wand and arrange for you to have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would that be?
It's easy for me, that question. It's Jim Clark, purely because everyone, all the people I know in motorsport, or who are my father's friends, who lived with him, and he was one of my dad's best friends, which is pretty cool. So my dad's got some amazing stories, and some of the pictures that my dad has with him, and they went on holiday together, they lived together for a brief time, and hearing everyone's respect for him was unbelievable. And it was the day he died at Hockenheim is when my dad finally said, I'm going to quit racing, because he said, no one ever thought it would happen, to Jim Clark. So I want to meet someone like that. I want to meet Jim Clark. I wish I could have, because there's not really much footage or interviews or anything out there of Jim, because that's obviously before it all really kicked off. So it's not like if we want to YouTube Ayrton Senna interviews, and it's a bit like we can't see Fangio, we can't see Jim Clark. So yeah, it would definitely be Jim Clark. He's pretty much the ultimate, according to everybody.
And that's very cool. Your dad knew him. When I raced vintage cars for a while, and my first vintage car was a 1960 Lotus 18. And I know Jimmy Clark raced a Lotus 18. And the first time I got in that car to drive it, I said to myself, what would Jimmy do? and I'm in no way comparing myself to him in any way as far as driving skills. Not even close. So those listeners are about to...
You'd slide it, by the way.
Slide it. Yeah, well, that's what you did with that car. It was a momentum car that you slid on those little tiny Dunlops. But I used to always, pull my gloves on and just close my eyes for a moment and think, wow, this is pretty cool. I get to experience this. But yeah, he was great. Now, how about a book? Is there a book you've read that you think our listeners would really enjoy reading as well?
So it's not a motorsport book, actually, but it's within my family, which is why it's probably, I don't read a huge amount of books, if I'm honest. There's some great motor racing books out there, but this is a book which has an amazing story. Basically, we've had a violin, which was, my grandfather was a violin player, a violinist, should I say, before he died. For many, many years, that was his thing. And we had this violin in the loft, and we wanted to get it, restored, because it was a very nice violin. Anyway, it was going to cost tens of thousands. We then took it to for a TV show, which said they were restoring musical instruments and all the antiques. And anyway, it turned out that my great aunt, or my great great aunt, should I say, she was from Jewish descendants, and she ended up in Auschwitz with this violin during the Second World War. And the violin saved her life, because she was an incredible violinist, and she was told that, just keep playing the violin and you'll live, pretty much. So she was keeping everyone's spirits up with the violin, and this violin was in Auschwitz for many years and still has marks and sort of ill repairs on it. And then it actually featured on a TV show recently called The Repair Shop in the UK, where it was restored. And since then, my auntie has written this book called The Fiddle, which I read probably about 6 months ago, and it's selling like hotcakes. And they're now going to make a film out of it, and Hollywood have got hold of it. And
Wow!
But honestly, it's an amazing book, very well written by my auntie. When somebody said to me she's writing a book, I sort of gulped and thought, well, that'd be interesting. It's a bit of a family passion. Who else wants to hear about it? But when you read the book, you really sort of unbelievable. So I'd say, The Fiddle. Yeah,
The Fiddle. What's your auntie's name?
Natalie Cummings.
Natalie Cummings. Okay, well, we will look that up. When you were describing all this, another movie came to mind that I remember called The Red Violin. I don't know if you ever saw that movie or not.
I haven't seen that. No, definitely.
Yeah, go check it out. I think you'll really like it. It's about a violin that goes through all these different owners over time and turmoil. And when you talked about Auschwitz and the war, this violin was confiscated and held, and then ended up in an auction in the UK, I believe, actually. So, check it out, The Red Violin. But we will check out The Fiddle. And listeners, I'll make sure you can find all these great links, including a link to this great book, The Fiddle, by Paul's auntie, Natalie Cummings. On Paul's show notes page, just go to carsyeah.com, type in Paul Rees, R-E-E-S, and that page will pop right up. All right, Paul, we're up to the checkered flag, and this last question can be a bit of a doozy. I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet today, but there's only a couple rules that you have to abide by. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an exception because I know you love your Mercedes so much. So let's park that in the back and take that out of the equation. You can keep that, just hide it in the back of the garage. But this is the only other collector car you can have. You can't sell it to buy a bunch of other cars with, like buy back that 86 Porsche. But I want you to drive it. This can't be a car that just parks and looks at it. I don't like garage queens. I like cars that get driven. So what can I buy you today?
Again, this is a pretty easy one for me because I think this quite often. It would be the original McLaren F1, the three-seater. It's just, I still think, the most beautiful car on the planet. What is there not to love about it? And it was kind of the ultimate supercar, and it's got 3 seats, so my son can go in one and my wife can go in the other, and
nice.
Have some happy holidays.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? What color would you like yours to be?
I do you know what? I'd take one in any color.
Yeah, no kidding.
Any color,
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. Well, those are special cars. I've had a lot of guests. Just the other day, I had a guest want a McLaren F1. Yeah, I would love one of those as well. And I told this quick little story, and I'm going to tell it again. I've taken my son to the Pebble Beach Concours for many, many years in a row. And when he was young, about 9, we were in front of the lodge, and this gentleman drove up in a silver McLaren F1 covered in bugs with Colorado license plates. He had driven this car all the way from Colorado to Pebble Beach to be at the Concours. Cool. And I thought, how cool is this? The guy's out on the road enjoying this car.
Using it.
Yeah, most of them just sit in collections and never get taken anywhere except for maybe a show or two. And he let my son crawl into the middle seat and sit there and just, I would love to buy you a McLaren, especially with your involvement with McLaren racing now as well. So I'll get to work on that, Paul. I may have to dig deep into my pocketbook to pay for one of those things because
they're pretty pricey.
They become very pricey for sure. Well, Paul, you've taken me on a great ride around the track today. I knew you would. I want to thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing your journey. Yeah, it's been fun. Could you offer us one little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the English countryside in your very own McLaren F1?
Just get it done and don't give up. If you have a dream, follow it, push again. And, I'm sure there are many people who have dreamt things and it hasn't happened and you don't hear about those stories. But make your own dream and make your own story and hopefully it happens for you. And but never give up.
There you go. Never, ever give up. And I know that you mentioned your Instagram is one way for people to follow you. Do you also have a website?
I do. Yes, it's paulreesracing.com.
Yeah, I'll make sure I put links to that on Paul's show notes page. So just go to carsyeah.com, type in Paul Rees, those pages will pop up. I encourage you to follow Paul and his racing adventures. I think this is going to be a great coming new year 2019 for you and the McLaren team. Wish you all the best success. Thank you for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and for sharing your experiences with me and the Cars Yeah listeners. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thanks, Mark. You're a legend.
Thank you. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.